What up? Howdy, everybody. Hopefully you all can hear me. Let me know if you can or cannot hear me. I just decided we would just randomly do a live stream. I was sitting here finishing up another video, and we hadn't done one of these in a while, and I'm, screw it. Let's do a live stream. So here we are. So, hey, if you all are just joining us and you don't mind liking the video, it helps you promote it. This is probably like the latest live stream I've ever done. I guess it's like 9:15 here. So why is everybody talking about Shia LaBeouf in the chat? I'm very interested to hear that story. Probably missed out on a fun story there in the Discord. Welcome everybody to the live stream. Apparently we're talking about Shia LaBeouf. Is that even the right way to say that? Is Shia like, am I saying that the right way, or I'm not singing anything about Shia LaBeouf. So if you're just joining us again, if you don't mind liking the video, but hey, welcome everybody. So I thought I would kick us off here. I'll give you kind of a heads up about what I've been working on. So we got a news video that'll be coming out here very, very soon, which I actually think we have some really, I don't know that it's like groundbreaking news, because a lot of it is kind of what I had assumed would be happening in the first place. Hey, Jennifer, I haven't seen you in a while. Good seeing you. I'm glad you could make it. We got some big news, and the news video should come out tomorrow. So, we should be able, we should be able to talk a little bit about that, but I'll talk about one piece of it now, mainly just because I think that this is a good springboard for conversation here. So it was announced, there was an article, WhatSeries.com. If you guys are not familiar with WhatSeries.com, it's literally WOTSeries.com, so as it's spelled. But they have really, really good in-depth news stories that they do on the Wheel of Time show. They did a little bit of a deep dive. They found, I'll shorten this a little bit. I'll go into depth in this in the video a little bit more, but Czechoslovakia, or the Czech Republic, is offering, not Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic is offering a credit, just like a lot of countries do, or a lot of states in the United States do, for shows that want to film. And so what they've done is Wheel of Time got the maximum credit that they could get there. Well, the only way that they qualify for that is if they spend a certain amount of money in the Czech Republic. Well, they got the max one, so I think they got a $15 million credit. Well, what's crazy about that is that implies that the budget for the show for the first season, sorry, I'm getting all choked up, but for the first season is above $80 to $90 million for the season minimum. Okay, so let's put that into perspective. That means at the minimum, Wheel of Time is getting a $10 million an episode budget. Okay, so just to put that in perspective, the Game of Thrones first season received a $6 million an episode budget. Okay, so we went from $6 million for Game of Thrones, which was considered a very good one, to 10 million plus. Like 10 million is the bottom that it could be. So that has me really excited. I mean, I already knew that. I'll say this: like, I already knew to a degree that there was going to be a big budget for it, right? But like, to have it to a degree confirmed, okay, it says a lot. And it just, when we hear other things, like you hear Daniel Henney talking about in his Q&A about how crazy the sets are from other people that they've seen, it has me a lot more excited. Okay, do I think that money by itself can make a good show? No, but I haven't seen a whole lot of movies or show. Actually, I take that back. Before I even go down that road, I was going to say, most of the time money will create good production value. So we'll say that money should create good production value. So now it falls down to the writing and to the acting. The acting, I'm fairly certain, is going to be amazing. They've gone after really high tier actors for this. So whether you realize that or not, if you're not familiar with a lot of the actors' work, but that has me extremely, excited hearing that news about the budget, number one. Number two, where do you do you think that the money that they're spending, I don't want to say guarantees success, because I don't think anybody's willing to go out and step on that, but do you feel better about them spending a lot of money, or do you feel like Amazon is just wasting money? I suppose that would be the question I would throw out to you all. So any case, we'll kind of leave that there. So, okay. I'm losing my voice a little bit. So I'll read some comments here. And guys, I so much apologize for my horribleness at getting to comments. I'm really bad at it. I'm beyond thrilled that they're putting this much effort into this. This is Robin Song Hagen. I'm hoping saying that right. It's either going to be awesome or it will go down as one of the worst hype trains. I find it so difficult. Like, they would have to, in my opinion, okay, they would have to royally screw this up. Okay, in my opinion, this is like being handed. Like, here's why I say that. Let me back up. Here's why I think they would have to totally screw this up. Like, this is theirs to lose. They don't have to convince people to win. This is a finished story. Okay, Game of Thrones was a massive gamble. When HBO took on Game of Thrones, okay, here was the MO for fantasy prior to Game of Thrones. I mean, cheesy, campy. The best thing that had ever been done fantasy-wise had been Lord of the Rings, right? Even if you go back to some previous popular fantasy-type movies like Willow, for instance, Willow is still extremely cheesy. Like, the grittiest fantasy movies that I can think of in the past prior to that would probably have been like Conan. And that was, I mean, that wasn't really a great movie. So if you go back that far, like, fantasy up to that point, for the most part, especially on television, was campy. It was like Xena Warrior Princess and Hercules, and I mean, awful stuff. Okay. So, and I see somebody talking about Harry Potter. Harry Potter is not, yes, it's fantasy, but it is not traditionally what most people would think of as fantasy. So we'll put it that way. Okay. So prior to that, you didn't have, it was a big gamble for HBO when they bought into it, because the other part of that was that series was not finished. Okay. It was popular, but it was not finished, which it is still not finished. So that's the other issue. So they had a limited amount of source material before they were going to have to go out on their own. Okay. They had a limited amount. So it was a major gamble. Okay. Major gamble for them. With Wheel of Time, it's not really a gamble. So on that note, at least, because they've got a finished story, and not only do they have a finished story, they have a very good finished story. Like, even us bigger hardcore fans, like, yeah, like, there are certainly problems I can poke in the way in Wheel of Time in general, but maybe even the way it was finished, right? Like, I could nitpick it and say I wasn't happy with this, like I wasn't happy with that. A lot of people aren't necessarily happy with Pot on Fane's ending, right? Some people weren't happy with Rand's ending. I mean, there are certainly, you're open to an opinion on that. But by and large, most of the fans in the community had a very positive reception. I think for a lot of us, we thought we weren't going to get a finished story at all, because when Robert Jordan died, not only did Brandon Sanderson pick up the story, but Brandon Sanderson picked up the story and did an amazing job with it. I think as well as anybody could be expected to do, picking up somebody else's life's work or their project and trying to finish it. So they don't have to come up with a new story. This is a finished, complete, very good story that, to a degree, is written very cinematically. Like, there's a lot going on in terms of description, a lot going on in terms of plot twists, and I mean, it translates in a lot of regards very well to television. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that the producers of the Wheel of Time are starting with a head start. Okay, they have a major head start in regards to, like, they're way ahead of the game. Okay, way ahead of the game. So to me, this is entirely a big worry. If you go back and watch one of my original big question marks, I made a video a long time ago about this. One of my bigger question marks was going to be, what's the budget going to be? Because if the budget is garbage, they're going to have to make a lot with a little. The budget at 10 million plus an episode is not a little. Like, that's a lot. So now we've taken that off the table. The only real concerns left is the writing garbage and is the acting garbage. We were talking about this a little bit last night in Discord. And for those of you, by the way, if you are not a member of my Discord server or of any of the Discord servers related around the Wheel of Time, click that link in the description of the video. Join it. All you got to do is click the link. It'll tell you to download it. We talk about Wheel of Time stuff all the time. We hop in voice chats. We do all kinds of fun stuff. There's a lot going on community-wise there. So absolutely hop in and join us there. But we were talking about this a little bit last night, and at the bottom line with this is they've got the acting, the directors. Uta Bresowitz. I'm gonna pick on her for a minute. Uta Bresowitz is absolutely amazing as a director. She has been a part of some of the best television series of all time. She was a part of The Wire, which I think a lot of people universally, well, I won't say universally, but a lot of people think is the best television show ever made. She directed arguably one of the better episodes of Westworld. She's been a director in a couple episodes of Westworld, as a matter of fact. She's a very well-respected director. Like, I mean, she's a bad bitch. Let's just put her that way. Like, that's what she is. Okay. And for her to be signed on to a project like this, my worry was going to be, okay, are the lines going to be campy? Is it going to be cheesy and terrible? You don't get high quality people that read a script and say, it's a shaky script. Like, these people are professionals, and they typically get there by picking their jobs well. And Uta Bresowitz is not at a place where she's desperate for work. She's at a place where she gets to pick what she works on. Let's just put it that way. And so for her to choose this, having read scripts for episodes 1 and 2, now knowing the budget that she has to work with, and working with Oscar caliber actresses like Rosamund Pike, and some very, very strong, talented, up and coming actors and actresses, to me, I just feel like they would have to royally screw this up. Okay. They seriously would. They would have to royally screw this up. And so that is, to me, like what has me the most excited. So yeah, that's kind of where I sit with it. So guys, again, I apologize. I'm notoriously bad at looking at comments, so I apologize ahead of time. But yeah, do we know the budget? For those of you that are joining us a little late here, first of all, if you don't mind liking the video, that really helps YouTube promote this stuff. So if you are just getting here and you don't mind hitting the like button, that would be awesome. I appreciate you. But what we were talking about is I'm going to be releasing a news video here coming up that'll talk about this a little bit, and we'll go into more depth on it there. But I wanted to kind of pop this out there as kind of a springboard for discussion. But we did get a tentative budget released. Okay, so the basic gist of it is, without getting into the details of how we know this yet, I'll talk about that more in the other video, but we know that Wheel of Time is going to get at minimum a $10 million an episode budget. It's very likely or possible that it's higher than that. Okay, so $10 million an episode is crazy, considering if you compare that to Game of Thrones, which got $6 million an episode. In fact, the last season, to put this in perspective, guys, the last season of Game of Thrones had a $15 million an episode budget, but they only did 6 episodes. So legitimately, it had the same budget. Like, this is getting the same budget that Game of Thrones got for its final seasons, to put that in perspective. Grow with the flow. Thank you so much, Baron. Great job on your channel. Keep it up. Hey, I appreciate the super chats. You guys are awesome. And thank you for that. Appreciate it. yeah, like to know that they're going to be spending that much money, and it's really comparable to even the last seasons of Game of Thrones, despite them being poorly written, they were still, production values were extremely high. Like, they didn't spare expense with that. So you combine that with the fact that you hear Daniel Henney talking about in live streams about the sets are just blowing people away. Like, they can't even fathom the sets that they're working on. Not only that, then you've also got other people mentioning it. Like, you have Sarah Nakamura talking about this. You have Rafe talking about it. I am flat out crazy excited to see a lot of this stuff, guys. Like, it has me. Some people accuse me of being like an Amazon hack, where I'm just like talking about how great they are and how this show couldn't possibly fail. And it's just not. Like, there's things that I think we can certainly have been critical of, but so far, in a lot of regards, to me, they're knocking it out of the park in how they're handling it, how they're handling the fan community, the amount of money they're spending, the hires that they've made. Like, none of these reek of poor quality. None of these reek of settling. None of these reek of just wanting to put out something cheesy to make a quick buck. Like, they're already in production, like pre-production on season 2. That's the confidence, number one, that Amazon has in the series. This is a big deal. If you go back even further, and I'm thinking about doing this, I made a video probably 8 months ago that was kind of like everything we know about Wheel of Time to this point. I'm thinking about doing another one of those, but kind of catching us all up. But in that video, I talked about this. Amazon paid a lot of money for this. Like, there was a very deliberate focus from Amazon that they wanted to create really strong fantasy content. Netflix was doing it with The Witcher. HBO had just done it with Game of Thrones. So they spent, close to $250 million acquiring not only Game of Thrones, or not Game of Thrones, I'm sorry, Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time. They acquired the rights to these shows, knowing that they're going to come in and make it. There's an article on Screen Rant that talks about why Wheel of Time is actually probably the bigger show between the two. More people know about Lord of the Rings, but because more people know about Lord of the Rings, it's kind of a, whatever. I've heard that story before, and even though they're going to make new stories in that world, Wheel of Time is something entirely new to get lost into. So they're really, really excited for that. So I'm really excited for that. So if you can't tell, I'm super pumped about it. So again, let me try to hit on some comments. Gosh, I'm so awful at hitting comments here. Wavestormer, oh God, please be good so people can watch it and get the whole series done. I'm with you there. I'll tell you that one of the things that I'm probably the most excited about with this is all the new people that'll be reading the books for the first time. I can't wait for it. Nemo Nova, I have a lot of confidence too. And I think you're right, Nae'Blis. I think Amazon is going to smack this out of the park. They have the budget, the actors, etc. I really do. I hope I'm not wrong. I really do. If it is terrible, I'll be the first one to say it. But like I said, to me, they would have to royally screw this up because they have such a head start with it. Like, this is a series that's going to be hard to screw up. It really will. I really think it'll be hard to screw up. Based on the money, the story, the studios that are making it, and the fact whether you agree with everything or not. Rafe Judkins is a super fan, guys. Like, it's been clear. If you hear him talk about Wheel of Time, he's read these books as many times as we have. They hired a super fan to make the show. Like, we couldn't ask for something better than that. I wouldn't even take like them hiring Steven Spielberg, who would come in and give his own creative vision, right? I don't want that. I want somebody who loves Wheel of Time. So that's kind of where I sit with it. Badger, the article seemed to further confirm that season 2 has already been paid for by Amazon, or at least Amazon has told Prologue how much they're planning to spend. Yeah, I think season 2, excuse me. I think season 2 is a given at this point. I don't think there's any question. They would not, to be clear about this, they would not have bought into the series without, they wouldn't have bought the rights without making more than one season. They spent too much money to only make one season of the show. So I thought at least we were going to get 2 seasons to minimum. The Dusty Wheel. Hey, thank you very much, Dusty Wheel. Guys, first of all, before I read Dusty Wheel's comment here, if you are not an avid viewer of the Dusty Wheel, you need to do that. It's the most unique Wheel of Time content here on YouTube. They do a weekly call-in talk show. I've been a guest on it. Lots of other content creators are guests there. The innkeeper over at the Dusty Wheel is actually the same gentleman that ran the Theoryland website that a lot of us have been a part of for years. Been a part of the Wheel of Time community for a long time. He was a beta reader for the final books, has access to the notes that Robert Jordan took. Super, super cool guy. He's on the board for JordanCon. This is a guy you want to follow. This is a guy you want to get news from. This is a guy you want to hear commentary from, and he does the best interviews in Wheel of Time. So you all need, if you are not already subscribed to that channel, you should do that. They do, it's a very unique format. They do like an hour to an hour and a half long call-in talk show. So they'll have guests, they'll have panels, and then you can actually call in and talk to the panelists, which is really, really cool. So again, I haven't even read his comment yet and it went by, but you should all be a part of watching and subscribing to the Dusty Wheel. I try to watch it all at once. So here's a question. What could stop it from being successful? Special effects, bad writing, poor marketing, all at once release, changes from the book's world event. So as always, outstanding question. So in my opinion, okay, there's I think special effects wise, they could do it. Here's what I mean by starting with a head start. I think that they could screw certain aspects of this up and still have it be a success, right? Like special effects. Would it be awesome if were like perfect? Yeah. If they're not perfect, am I screw this? I'm turning it off. No. There have been a lot of fairly good movies with poor special effects before. So they would have to really screw up special effects, in my opinion, to like, and like, well, by really screw it up, I mean like really screw it up to really make this not a success. Bad writing. Now, if it's universally across the board bad writing, here's the problem I have with that and why I think it's hard for them to screw up the writing. At least from a story standpoint, they have a very good story to start with. They're not having to make this up. We're not bringing in writers to come in and come up with the Wheel of Time. They have to adapt the Wheel of Time. So all they're doing is making changes that they think make it look better on screen, right? Or that are going to fit into the confines of production. So they're not rewriting it from scratch. So where writing, I think, can go wrong, and I do think this is one of the things that could go wrong. Okay, so I think this ties in with the acting too. So this will tick us off as fans, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Let's say that Barney Harris, who, by the way, I do not think this will be the case at all, knowing what I know of Barney. But let's say Barney Harris totally screws up the tone of Matt, right? Like, he just doesn't sound like Matt to us. And we hear the writing of Matt's dialogue and we think, that's not what Matt would say. Well, new viewers don't know that, okay? So the reality is that's not going to ruin the show if Matt is just written differently and acted a little differently, right? Like, it might for you and we might be, wow, that's not Matt. But that's not going to keep people from watching, and that's not going to make the show bomb. What will make it bomb, though, is if the dialogue is incredibly cheesy and the changes they make no sense at all, and the story is incoherent. Like, there's storytelling methods that they could mess up. So they've got this great story, but if they tell it the wrong way, that could screw it up. Poor marketing, I'm not so much worried about that, Mr. Innkeeper here, because it's Amazon. And if you guys know anything, the Amazon actually markets their originals more than any of the streaming services do. If we ever get to go back to movie theaters, they market in movie theaters. They market on network television. They market on YouTube. They market everywhere. I mean, think about The Boys or the Jack Ryan show. Like, Hunters is a recent one from Amazon. Man in the High Castle. Though they're everywhere. You cannot go on the internet or go and see media without seeing marketing for those. So The reality for me is this. This is why I said I really think it's going to come down to writing and if the acting is any good. Because if they can pull that off, I really do think it's hard. So that was an outstanding question, and hopefully I did some justice in answering it. But So Andrew Berenson, I hope the TV series is successful. Then not Wheel of Time fans will get to learn the history of Harriet and Robert Jordan's involvement with Wheel of Time. So yeah, like I said, part of what I'm most excited about is all the new fans that are going to come. I was telling some people in Discord this last night. For years and years and years, I could not get a single person in my family. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. I could not get a single person in my family to read these books. During the what do we call it? Quarantine. I got to be careful of the words I choose to use on YouTube. But during the quarantine, my sister texts me and says, "Hey, do you have any books I can read? I'm just bored. I'm sick of looking at my phone. I want to read a book." Well, sure, you're darn right. I've got a book for you to read. I actually went and bought her a brand new paperback version of Eye of the World. She's gotten through, at least the last time I talked to her about it, she is now past the point where they've left the 2 rivers, and she's loving it. She even told my mom, I was talking to my mom the other day, she had told my mom she was liking the book, which is crazy that she even brought it up to my mom. So I say all that because that's the part that excites me, is watching people read it for the first time. We get to kind of vicariously live through. We all remember our first reads. We all wish we could go back and experience it again for the first time. And so I kind of like I used to coach basketball, and I would get like competitive through the kids that I coached. Same thing goes with Wheel of Time. Like I kind of vicariously read through the people that are reading. And so I'm kind of pumped about that. So I'm really pumped she's watching that. Dusty, as long as the changes are coherent, I'm good with them. And I'm with that too. I'm not expecting a word for word translation of the books, guys. I'm just not. I wouldn't expect it, and honestly, I don't necessarily even want that. Do I want massive changes? No, but I don't think Wheel of Time can go straight from the books to the page, like to the TV. There are going to be changes they need to make. So, I'm expecting changes. I'm hoping they're not drastic, stupid ones that make no sense. Like to me, I talked about this before. I don't want changes with collateral damage. Like I don't want changes for the short term, make one book easier to write that screw up the rest of the story. So for instance, cutting Galad. Okay, like Galad doesn't play much of a role early on. All of his things can be farmed off to somebody else, right? But down the road, he plays a bigger deal. So I want Galad to remain a part of the story early on so that we're not cutting him all the way. So, yeah. MK, Marcus and Daniel have been the most difficult for me to picture as the characters, but they have finally set themselves in my head when they read. Daniel Henney, I really think Daniel Henney, guys, I think you're going to be very shocked at how good he is. I'll leave it at that. I think you're going to be very shocked at how good Daniel Henney is at being Lan. Now, Marcus is the one that I'm actually the most excited for. Marcus, to me, of all of their, aside from Rosamund, okay, all of the other actors and actresses within the series, Marcus is the one I'm the most impressed with as an actor. I just think he's really good. It's just my opinion of what I've seen of him. Yosha is very good as well. But I'm really happy with what, like Marcus to me is a great hire. And when you hear, you hear Rafe talk about the first time when he saw Marcus audition, that he was like, "That's our Perrin." That's the kind of vibe I'm just excited about. And again, Rafe is a super fan. This is you sitting down to watch actors, right? And then you looking at somebody read a line and going, "That's him." Like that, put yourselves in those shoes, guys. That's where I'm at with it, and I'm pumped about that. So, yeah, James Oren's talking about this. Daniel Henney's Instagram Q&A last week put me at ease. Yep, I agree. Hey, Lulu Ramos, you're on Towers of Midnight. I will try to do like a big earmuffs moment if I'm going to spoil anything. But I would say generally be careful here. You've made it far enough that you don't want to get anything else spoiled. And this is typically spoiler talk, so be careful. If you are just joining us here on the live stream, guys, please like the video. I'll say this: if you guys are ever watching anybody do live streams on YouTube, super helpful. Like if you're watching the Dusty Wheel, for instance, tomorrow night at 9:00 Eastern time, they're going to be on. If you're watching that tomorrow night, which you should be, make sure to like the video when you hop on, because it really helps the YouTube algorithm promote live streams. They do it differently, and so if you guys can like it, that's awesome. Now, obviously, if you hate the video, that's okay too. But I don't know why you'd keep watching. So Dusty Wheel with a comment again. I think it's so tough not to have collateral changes. Hell, I know the books, but not well enough to know every reverberation. And even then, they will likely pun worrying about it. I think that's true to an extent, but major characters, I think it's easier to do. Shane Dunning, appreciate it, man. Appreciate the super chat. I love you all super chatters. It's super. What will be the most powerful scenes of the first season? To me, it's when Loyal sings for Tree Brother. I agree that's a powerful scene. In fact, I love that scene. I think it's awesome. And I love Lan's reaction to it about "You're a good man, Ogier." But I actually think the most powerful scene from the first season is going to be something to do with Logain. And I say that because, Rafe said that. Okay, Rafe basically said that Alvaro Morte had him in tears. So I flat out think it's probably going to be that, and whether that's stilling or gentling. Sorry, I think it'll be that. That's my guess. I don't know what you guys think of that too. Sorry, I'm losing my voice, so it's not COVID. Oop, I'm not allowed to say that word. Severing. Yeah, we'll since I am the Nae'Blis, we'll talk about severing. And by the way, I'm going to address the major elephant in the room. So the Dusty Wheel has been releasing pronunciation guides from Robert Jordan, things that he said from interviews. And supposedly there's a audio clip of Robert Jordan saying, instead of Nae'Blis, it's Nebulous. Well, I just want to inform all of you guys that in this one occasion, Robert Jordan is wrong. He is pronouncing it incorrectly. It's Nae'Blis. And the reason I can say that is because I am the Nae'Blis. So there you have it. Robert Jordan was wrong about his own books. He was mistaken. I'm correct. Thank you. So that's done. That's why they're all saying Nebulous. Nebulous is incorrect. It's Nae'Blis. And I will not be changing. You can't convince me. RJ was a Southerner. We don't know how to pronounce our own things most of the time. And that is so true. So true. All of you Southerners, you're all weird. Yes, thank you, Wheel Talk. Wheel Talk is another podcast. There are not Wheel Talk. So there's a new YouTube channel. Actually, there's a bunch of new YouTube channels. I'll probably promote this in the video, so I'll say this, guys. But one of the things I'll mention this generally. One of the things that I am super excited about with Will Time right now is the content creators that are popping up. How do I put this? Like, there's an upping of the quality and of the types of content that are being created, which I think is super fun, because when I started making Wheel of Time videos, which was back in, my first video came out in October of 2018. Okay, so we're now in 2020. This is we're about a year and a half through. Okay. The only other person that was really making any type of Wheel of Time content at that point was Daniel Green, and he only had a couple videos, and he was at like 6,000 subscribers, 7,000 subscribers. Well, he just did his 150K live stream the other day. So to put that in perspective, there's a lot grown. And so there was not much on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff popping up now where not only is there more Wheel of Time content, so you can kind of get stuff from other people, but some of the quality is just crazy good. I'm excited about where it's going. What I would always tell you is this: when somebody's got a new YouTube channel and you really enjoy their delivery or the type of content, guys, don't get too hung up on the quality of their video at the beginning, or even just the sound quality. Like, focus on the quality of their content in terms of what they make, because a lot of times YouTube starts off as a major hobby. And so, when people are getting started, the visual quality may not be great, but what they're saying could be awesome. And if you support those people, and you give them your views and you give them your subscriptions, it helps them promote what they're doing, and they're going to get better at it as they do more of it. And if you like what they do at the beginning, think about how good it will be at the end. And I say that as somebody who, I certainly do not make like top quality visual content. Like, I can't touch what Unraveling the Pattern does. In fact, what Lauren does is so good that I'm having him help me and work with me in a couple of videos that I cannot wait to get out to you guys, because they're going to be awesome. But like, that stuff I can't do. I don't have time to learn it. And he just makes such good content. Dusty Wheel, like, the Innkeeper, Matt, is probably the best interviewer and runs such a quality call-in talk show. It's such a unique thing for YouTube, and it's really like, I know the people that watch it get hooked on it. There are so many great podcasters out there. There are so many new up-and-coming YouTubers out there. So I want to throw all that out there. I don't mean to drool all over all this stuff, guys, but if there are new people out there, support them, and help them get better at what they do, because my first videos, it's funny because to me, they're absolute garbage. And I go back and I watch the video quality and I'm like, how did anybody watch this and subscribe? Like, I'm looking at it, like, my first video was 5 reasons to pick up and read the Wheel of Time. And apparently Mike from Mike's Book Reviews started reading Wheel of Time because he saw that video. Well, it's so, in my opinion, I go back and watch it, I'm like, this is such a bad video. Like, look at the horrible visual. Like, I had like lights, like lamps in my basement at my old house. It was terrible, but you got to start that way. So, any case, I'm done sidetracking on all of that. But yeah. So yeah, support each other. There we go. So Christopher Foxglove, I think that's what that says. I don't know about you guys, but around the time the Fellowship came to theaters, I remember wishing and hoping that one day Wheel of Time could get that kind of treatment, but assuming it would never happen. What's crazy is they originally, NBC bought the rights to Eye of the World and was going to make it into a television miniseries, which I think would have been really cool at the time. Although I'm glad that that didn't happen, so that we can get what's happening now. Because think about a television miniseries like The Stand from the 90s. Like, it was good at the time, but if you go back and watch it, it's like objectively not very good, even though they had a great cast for it. And they didn't spend nearly the money that they're spending on this. The other things that were, Wheel of Time was going to be made into a movie. Like, they were going to make Eye of the World into a movie. So in any case, excited to see that. It's so amazing that we have an impending show on the horizon. Yeah, and this has definitely been delayed, although I don't think it's going to delay things as much as we think, because I think they're working on a lot of other things. I think, if anything, we're going to see, season 2 come out sooner than we might have otherwise. So we may not have as big of a wait between season 1 and season 2. Dusty will. I won't go back and watch our first one. Your first one was really good. You got like a production team and everything. My production team is me using Google to try to figure out how to do this. So that was really weird. I heard something fall in my house. That was strange. Okay. So I remember being worried that Wheel of Time was going to be a movie because I thought the story couldn't be told in 90 minutes or 2 hours. I remember telling my friend, I wish it could be a series. I thought the same thing. I thought there's no way they'll be able to pull that off. They would really have to. So when I made my, people are saying, well, it can't be done on a like it can't be adapted, right? Like it couldn't be. They can't do it in 4 episodes, which is like 4 hours of work. Think about like Fellowship of the Ring. They adapted it and put it into a 3-hour movie, basically, a little less than 3-hour movie. So yeah, and they actually pulled that off. Like they can pull this off. It's going to be my video that I did where I kind of went through the breaking down like how could they fit one book into half a season, right? Was really to prove a point. I don't think they're going to adapt it that way at all, but it was more of a proof of concept, if anything. But the reality is guys, scenes don't take as long as you think they do when they do these adaptations. Like I when I was making that video, if you never saw that video, I did a news video probably 2 months back where I went through and I took every scene from the first books and I basically tried to adapt it and see could we fit Eye of the World into 4 episodes. So if they wanted to do 4 and 4 for a total of 8 episodes, could they do it and not cut a lot? And the reality, and I went back and I watched Game of Thrones and figured out, okay, how long is the average like that they adapt? And for the most part, each scene in Game of Thrones is between 2 and 4 minutes, which you don't realize. It feels like longer than that. Like watching it, it feels much, much longer, but it's not. And so you might have a minute and a half of dialogue where it seems like a really important, crazy good interaction. And it feels like it goes on much longer. And so I found that from watching Game of Thrones. So I'm not really concerned that they're going to be cutting a massive amount of content. I don't think that. And I don't think what they're doing is cutting stuff for the sake of cutting it. I think they're simplifying it. I think there are certainly going to be side stories that need to be cut or don't need to be explored because you don't want characters that are kind of like Chekhov's gun where you have a character that exists, but then they have no purpose. So they tend to have more of a purpose in television shows. So I certainly think that we're going to get, I think we're going to get most of the story there. I don't think anything significant is going to be cut from the story, but they might combine characters. They might try to reduce the number of people that we have to follow from the beginning, if that's what I mean. So in any case, that's my thought on that. So a lot of exposition that explains the lay of the land can be done with sweeping visuals that take a little no time. Yeah, I agree. So one of the things that I think could be done with that, I've mentioned this. I actually think let me throw this out to you all. I'd like to hear some thoughts on this because we were talking about this the other night. What do you all want to see the prologue in episode 1 or no? Here's my take on it while you all answer the question because it takes a little bit for your chat to catch up with me. I 100% would like to see the prologue in episode 1. I'd like to see a cold open. And if you're not familiar with what cold open means, it means like show starts, no credits, anything like that. Just we open up with the prologue. Here's the reason I want that. Number one, it sets a difference between the way things were to the way they are now. So I want it for that. The other thing is it transitions into what could be very, very cool opening credits where we see the passage of time. We see the turning of the wheel, right? We need to explain what the show Wheel of Time means. My 2 cents. And we don't need the prologue. It doesn't need to be explained. Okay. We don't need to understand what we're seeing. Go back to the cold open of Game of Thrones. You have White Walkers. You have no idea what the hell a White Walker is at that point. You have no idea what the hell the Night Watch is. You don't know what the Wall is. You don't know who these people are. All you know is a bunch of dead bodies and zombies killed these guys. That's it. It got okay. So prologue without explanation, because we're going to be able to flash back at certain points throughout the series. We're going to be able to reference back, and we need the reference points. So to me, that's what I want. Now, that doesn't mean that that's what we're going to get. That doesn't mean that that's what we should get. I'd love to see some of your opinions on that. So I want to see the prologue, but not necessarily as the first thing we see. I think the prologue should be at the start of a New Spring flashback episode. Why New Spring? Because the prologue is really nothing to do with New Spring. So I'm curious about that. I think that would be too many time jumps if you did a way back time jump and then the New Spring time jump. Like, I'm not sure that would be narratively focused. Different from a guy who doesn't remember killing his wife and family. Fairly true, but tell me this: would it hook you to try to figure out why this guy is walking around with dead people and then finds his wife and daughter, or wife and kids, brutally murdered at his own hand? Like, if that's done well visually and dialogue, not Billy Zane Winter Dragon crap, okay, but really well, that could be an emotional impact from the very get-go. So, and it shows us glimpses of the Age of Legends up front. Just a thought. Zombies are dehumanized. Lucerne is a human being, confused and distressed. Much harder to put that in and just drop it. Fair, but again, I think it could be done. We don't want to be confused like The Witcher. And I agree with that. I don't think there needs to be crazy numbers of time jumps. Okay. But if it's done visually, in my opinion, like the way I envision it in my head, at least, you've got, okay, so we go through the whole, he walks around, right? Morden shows up, or Ishamael shows up, cures his sanity, realizes what he did, travels, creates Dragon Mount, kills himself, right? You see Ishamael watching, and then we see the breaking of the world. We, like, over time, like, we see basically a time lapse of the map, right? The wheel of time turning, like, they can do these things. That is the opening to the show, right? Why is that important? Number one, it explains what the title of the show means. Now, it's not totally explained, but it gives us a context of how much time has passed. Okay. That's why I want that. I want us to understand that what we're seeing is way long ago. Okay. So that's kind of why I want to see it. I've gone back and forth on that, but that's where I sit with it right now. Is that's what I want to see. Okay, so Andrew said, I said the New Spring episode because you get to see Dragon Mount, how it plays out in the prophecies. We can see the creation of Dragon Mount and Rand's birth at the end of the episode. That's possible, but most of New Springs takes place after Rand's birth. So how far into New Spring are we going? Are we going to see the Aiel War? Because Rand has already been born for all of New Spring. I mean, the opening of New Spring is Rand being born. So, it, like, if we're doing the build up to that, it wouldn't necessarily tie in. I understand what you're trying to say, but that's not a narrative beginning and ending, because we would have to see, really, New Spring takes place in the search for Rand after he's been born, right? It's not Rand being born. That's an entirely different story. That would be the Aiel War. And that would imply that we're going to have a whole episode of Aiel War, which really doesn't play into Rand being born. So, yeah, I'm not sure about that. We'll talk, since they're focusing on Moraine, and if they do a cold open, I feel like Guitar's Prophecy makes more sense. I think the prologue is too much for some people, and they may avoid it. So I want to address that, because I think people misread or mishear when they said early on with the marketing, this is the story of Moraine. This is not Moraine's story. And I don't think that they're actually adapting it to make it Moraine focused. I don't think she's going to have any bigger or less of a role than she already does. They did that because Rosamund Pike is by far the most marketable actress that they've done. Okay, by far. So of course they're going to highlight that. In very much the same way, I'll give you a really horrible, cheesy example. There's a movie called Air Force One that starred Harrison Ford. No, it's not. Not Airs. What is it? Oh crap! What's the name of that movie? It had Kurt Russell. Anyways, Steven Seagal was billed as being one of the main people in this movie. Somebody correct me if you know what movie I'm talking about. He's billed as like a main character, and he has all of like 2.5 minutes of screen time and dies. Okay. Why did they bill Steven Seagal in the mid 90s for being a major actor in this movie? Because Steven Seagal was a big deal then. Okay. So no idea what movie that was, but executive decision. Thank you. Yes, that's what it was. Jennifer Wood. As always, Jennifer Wood is awesome. She's like my favorite. Cold opening are just cool and informative. I would really like to see it. Oh, moving away. I would really like to see it every season start. And by the way, can you tell Badger Reborn that Min is not a dark friend? Min is not a dark friend, Badger. Badger has a lot of crazy, we call it Nae'Blis, but he's got lots of crazy theories. If you haven't watched, Badger Reborn is another content creator. He also happens to be a moderator on my Discord server. And he has been making Wheel of Time content, and he released a video claiming that Min is a dark friend. If you would like to hear his arguments and understand that, please go watch his video, Badger Reborn. It is compelling, even if he's wrong. Absolutely go check that video out. But thank you again, Jennifer. So, yeah, but to address the guitar, so when I come back to what you said, Will Talk said Guitar Amorosa is the opening. I think that is a much better flashback later on when we want to explain Moraine's backstory. There's no reason to make that, like, we don't want to give away that the dragon has been reborn until later on we know that. So I think the cold open for the show should still remain. Like, I don't think we need to change Robert Jordan's story there. I don't think we need to change that story in the sense that I really do think the prologue makes sense. That's my thought. Now, if we want to get back to understanding why Moraine, see, here's why it's important that we don't explain that early on. We want to have mystery. Okay. I want to be sure, and I know they're playing this up because even the dialogue we got at the table read implies they're making Moraine a little gray, okay, in the eyes of at least the Emmons Fielders. I don't want, as a viewer, to know what she's up to. I want to think in my head, is she doing something wrong? Is she bad? Like, might she be a turncoat? Like, I don't know that, okay? I don't want to know why she's doing what she's doing until much later on, after she's been fleshed out as a character, and now it's a reveal. So now it's a reveal that her and Swan Sanche witnessed the old Keeper of the Chronicles have a foretelling of the dragon being reborn, and then they started searching for her, and that's what led Moraine for 20 years to search for Rand al'Thor. That's what I want to see. So I don't want that to be answered early on. I want that to be answered much later, after there's some context for fleshing out Moraine as a character, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I want to keep her. I want to keep it that way, I guess. That's sort of why I'm where I'm at with that. If that makes those are my thoughts, at least. And I mean, it is interesting to see what a lot of you guys say. Blech, I can't talk today. So the strike at Sheo Ghul as a code open, I think, might be too much. The reason I think that, again, this is just my opinion on it. I think it might be too much for this reason. We'd have to go into too much backstory. Now, if they want to introduce that later on, sure. But what hooks people is the not knowing. Like, okay, so I'll give you a couple examples. Okay. How many, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you like Christopher Nolan movies, right? Like, a lot of us loved Interstellar, Inception. He's got a movie coming out that's supposed to come out here in August called Tenet. I have no idea what the hell it's about, but I want to see it. Okay. What marketing is all about is giving enough that I have interest. Okay. But not to satiate the interest. Okay. We don't want to completely satiate your interest in something. So if I can keep you wanting to come back for something else, or to have a question answered, or I do this in interviewing. Okay, so if I'm hiring somebody for a job, you would think off the top of my head that I should explain everything that'll ever happen to them if we want to make sure it's a good fit. No, I want to get them interested in what I'm talking about, so they're going to seek it and come back for the second interview to hear more. Okay, that's marketing. That's how marketing works. The same thing has to apply for the way they construct the story of the show. They cannot give us all of the information. They have to give us just a little bit. So if we see too much of the Age of Legends, if we see too much of Aes Sedai, if we see too much channeling, too much has already been done. It needs to be very minimal. Okay. The Alien movie. The alien in Alien is barely there until the end. Like, you barely see it. Off-screen alien. Keeps you on the edge of your seat. Okay. Horror movies do this. It's addition by subtraction. You see less of something, so you're interested to see it. Blair Witch was that way. I'm just trying to think of movies that do that. So we don't want them to give everything. And that's kind of where I sit with this is, if we stick with the prologue as it's written, there's enough Easter eggs in the prologue that it's actually crazy if you go back and read it. But at the beginning, you're like, what the hell? I don't even know what's going on. And that's okay. Okay. So that's kind of where I sit with that. Yeah, James Gilbert, the 10 million an episode, it's actually probably higher than that, which is crazy. But yeah, I see a couple of you guys mentioning Jaws, and my ADHD's kicking in. But yeah, this whole conversation got started when we're talking about budget, and I'm gonna be releasing a video here soon about that. But it's all about gauging or getting a little bit of interest and then dragging it so that I keep wanting to come back and see more. And so that's kind of how I feel like that works a little bit. Ashley Schindler, how do you think the difference of hard and soft magic systems will make an impact on audiences? Game of Thrones was more of a soft magic system, and it seems that drew a lot of people's attention. I would argue this. I don't think... Here's the challenge for hard magic systems with adaptations. The rules of hard magic are actually really interesting. The hard magic system of Wheel of Time is actually, to me, a big plus. Soft magic systems leave a lot to like plot. Like, I think of Harry Potter as probably the worst of this. Soft magic systems lead to plot devices when done wrong. So Hermione having a time twister just because I want the plot to have that. Like, man, that would solve every problem in the entire series, right? But so that's soft magic in the sense of what's possible and what's not possible. Hard magic systems, I think, have an inherent difficulty of being able to convey the rules. And so you don't want to have exposition a lot of times. Where Wheel of Time has the benefit here is there really isn't a lot of magic per se. There's not a lot of channeling in the first season. And in that time, we've got built-in exposition with Moraine talking to Egwene about the rules for channeling. Rand experiencing things without knowing what's going on. Then we've got more exposition either in the end of season 1 or at the beginning of season 2 when they go to the tower and actually start getting trained. There's built-in exposition because there will actually be somebody teaching the rules of channeling. Okay, so do I think a hard magic system can work? Absolutely. Most of the time it's not going to be because it's not a focus. Magic was not a focus of Game of Thrones. It just wasn't. It wasn't a part of it. It's a big part of Wheel of Time. Like, you can't separate it from Wheel of Time. So, and I would argue even think about this. So let's go to Doctor Strange. That's probably the most mainstream magic-filled piece of content out there that did well. Did they explain every piece of the magic? No. But they had only 2 hours to do it. Less than 2 hours to do it. But we did understand the mirror dimension and the rules of how the mirror dimension works. We understood that if you draw power from the dark dimension, right, that gives you longer life, or that you can do these different things, right? So we were able to pick up parts of a hard magic system that maybe existed for the rules of their world in a 2-hour movie. Imagine what they can do oops, I hit my mic. Imagine what they can do with 8 hours of a first season and then 16 hours of 2 seasons, right? So I really do think a hard magic system can work, and I think it can do really, really well. And I think it'll be a good feat if they do it right and they parse it out. I don't want tons and tons of magic up front. I don't want to see Moraine doing crazy fireballs. In fact, I would like to not see Moraine on Winter Night. I know that sounds crazy, guys. I would like to not see. Is that better, Dana? But I don't want to see Moraine channeling on Winter Night. Why? Because I want that to be a mystery. I want there to be less magic. That's what I want. So I know and agree. I think the show needs to keep people's interest. I agree with that too. So hey, everybody, we're about past an hour here. I appreciate y'all joining me for a very last minute live stream, kind of off the cuff without any warning. I'm pumped a lot of you could make it. Haven't done one of them in a while. We'll probably be on to another one here soon. But I appreciate y'all joining me. Hey, so a couple things. Number one, like the video. Number two, join the Discord. Down in the link below, there is, you can join the Discord server. It's a lot of fun. We talk, we have voice chats. There's all kinds of stuff. No matter where you're at in the books, we've got non-spoiler sections. It's a lot of fun in general. So make sure to join the Discord. If you want to support what I do, guys, right now, YouTube is being wonky with ad revenue. If you want to support the channel, you want to support the content, we're making headway on the website, which I am so pumped to get this out. So, but we're making headway on that. If you want to support any of that, Patreon is the best way to do it. So I appreciate a lot of you already do, and I love it. I love you for it. It makes this so much easier to do and invest in. So if you want to support the channel through Patreon, awesome. Definitely join the Discord, buy merch, have fun, stay safe, wear a mask. And hey, till next time, guys, take care.